Geronimo by Shepherd. You're listening to Insanity Radio 103.2 FM. I am White Shadow. And oh my gosh, I have got some fascinating topics lined up for the show today. I have just wow. Yeah, well, first off, I want to get this one out of the way. Do you remember Pluto? Yeah, no, not the Disney dog, the planet that was a planet but is no longer a planet that some people say should still be a planet. Well, the story goes that in 2006, astronomers from around the world declared that Pluto didn't meet the criteria for being called a planet. The issue was Pluto's mass, which wasn't high enough to give it what astronomers claimed was necessary for all true planets. That's a clean orbital path around its host star. Pluto had everything except for this sort of clear neighbourhood requirements, because debris from the nearby belt spilled over into Pluto's own orbit, and of course the much larger Neptune occasionally tugs on Pluto. Some scientists and astronomers are now once again arguing that it's not the planet that should come under question, but the criteria laid out. That the real defining feature of a planet should be whether or not it's massive enough and creates enough gravitational force that it becomes spherical. And this topic kind of plays into what I want to talk about, because in 2017, NASA released a statement saying that planet number 9 might exist, hiding behind Neptune. Evidence is continuing to mount in the form described as 5 lines of evidence, including 6 known objects in the belt, all of which have orbits that point in the same direction and orbiting in the opposite direction from everything else in the solar system. The problem is that proving the existence of Planet 9, or Planet 8 if it's officially decided that Pluto isn't a planet, at this point I really don't know anymore, it would mean inventing technology that can see a planet that might be 20 times further away from the Sun than Neptune. They've estimated that the planet might have 10 times the mass of Earth, and because of its distance from the Sun it would be 160,000 times dimmer than Neptune. Yet they've said at this point that if you were to remove the explanation of Planet 9 and assume it doesn't exist, you generate more problems than you solve. All of a sudden, you have 5 different puzzles and need to come up with 5 different theories to explain them. This sounds absolutely fascinating. It's something that I'm definitely going to be trying to keep an eye on in the coming months and potentially years and maybe decades, who knows? So if anybody out there knows how to make a more powerful telescope and planet finding technology, then please do get in touch with NASA and help them speed up the process. Speaking of puzzles and trying to explain theories, those of you who listen to my show regularly will know that I almost always announce how many days there are left until Christmas, until recently, when I went strolling around a supermarket to discover a range of Christmas wrapping paper, chocolates and other things, and I immediately thought to myself, what on earth? Planet pun. There's definitely some double standards going on here, because I've been talking about Christmas every week, and as soon as supermarkets started showing traces of Christmas while we're still trying to officially exit summer, I was like, nah, this is wrong, isn't it? This can't be right. And then I stopped and thought about it, and supermarkets don't tend to stock things that don't sell. That's got to be rule number 1 in the world of retail, besides the customer is always right, except when they're not. Now, some people struggle with the expenses that come with Christmas, and trying to pay out for everything in the middle of the month of December would be very difficult for a lot of people. And it can be difficult to save up the money over the year, especially for those who like to spend. Believe me, I know. But if you're buying wrapping paper and chocolate and other Christmas stuff throughout the year, you know it's there. You can't spend it. You're able to sort of spread out the expense throughout the year without the fear of it not being there come Christmas time. And if you're big on Christmas, that just kind of makes sense. So, at this point, in my opinion, I think next time I'm strolling through a supermarket and I see Christmas aisles in the middle of summer, instead of saying, how can they be thinking of Christmas already? Maybe I could say that's pretty clever, because people are thinking ahead and want to start preparing to avoid the risk of falling short in December. Having a very tight and stressful month with the risk of credits and loans and debts to repay in the new year. And it's just food for thought, I suppose. And yeah, speaking of food for thought, speaking of food, a shout out to Paige, who is tuned in while at work right now. She has sent in a song request. Now, Paige, if you're serving a customer right this very second in time, tell that customer to listen up, because they've got an opportunity to hear the song that you requested. Thank you for tuning in to Insanity Radio 103.2 FM.
And in time, this one reminds the other of a past, a life lived much too far. And the world will live as one.
Imagine by John Lennon. Before that, we were listening to Ditmas by Mumford & Sons. And that still sounds like a biscuit brand to me. Thank you for that request, Paige. You're listening to Insanity Radio 103.2 FM. I am White Shadow. And there's an interesting topic popped up a while back that I've started paying attention to and following along. Partly because it impacts me as well as everybody else on the planet. At the moment, MPs are advising that the government relaxes its vaping laws so that e-cigarettes can be used to help people to quit smoking. A government select committee has said that registering e-cigarettes as medical devices and relaxing restrictions around using them in public places could be for the greater good. E-cigarettes are said to be 95% safer than smoking, and the committee chairman, Norman Lamb, said that businesses, transport providers and public spaces should stop viewing conventional and e-cigarettes as one and the same thing. He went on to say that concerns that e-cigarettes could be a gateway to conventional smoking, including for young non-smokers, haven't materialised, and that if used correctly, e-cigarettes could be a key weapon in the NHS's Stop Smoking arsenal. The PHE, the Public Health England, have plans to create a tobacco-free England by 2025. But they have a mission on their hands, because currently around 9 million people in the UK smoke cigarettes. At present, around 3 million people currently use e-cigarettes in the UK, also known as vapes. But how do you non-smokers and non-vapers feel about the rules being relaxed about vaping in public spaces? I mean, I started smoking at a very young age, and I switched to e-cigarettes almost 4 years ago, and I haven't had a single cigarette since. I'm quite proud of that. But not only has it saved me somewhere around £3,000 a year, but I definitely noticed a significant improvement on my health as well. As an example, when I was smoking, I could barely run 100 metres before my lungs started burning up. Now, after quitting, I can do 8 miles with relative ease. But that doesn't mean to say that it's okay for me to start using vape pens, vape cigarette, whatever, right under your nose. I use a device, the device I own is relatively vapor-free. It doesn't produce mass clouds that fog your vision, burn your eyes, and leave you snorting that sweet, sickly scent for the next hour. Nor do I use it for more than, tiny, unnoticeable puffs in close proximity to anybody else. For me, it's not so much about abiding by the rules and following the law. It's about common decency. Just because an e-cigarette is safer than smoking, it doesn't mean that other people should involuntarily be smothered in clouds of somebody else's habit. Water is relatively safe, but that doesn't mean it's okay for me to start throwing water balloons at unsuspecting people on the streets. So I would really like to hear your views on that. If you have a thought or opinion that you want to share, you can tweet into the studio using the Twitter handle @InsanityRadio and let me know. Now, I remember a few years ago, it might be more than that now, when the e-cigarette was banned from train stations. I don't know if it was unique to South West Train Services or if it was a national thing, but I remember the reason they announced publicly for this was because once people started vaping on the smoking on the platforms was already banned, but vaping at that point wasn't. And there were a number of occasions when staff members saw clouds of smoke bellowing out from a direction of a passenger, went over and asked them if they would stop smoking, and ended up getting all kinds of abuse hurled at them as the passengers kind of explained that it's a vape pen and not a cigarette, therefore, was okay to use. And that kind of misunderstanding, that kind of abuse led to them banning vape cigarettes, e-cigarettes on train stations as well, which is very, very fair. I find that very understandable, very acceptable. It's something I have no problem with. I'm good with that. As a vapor, I'm okay with that. If it saves confusion, if it saves problems, if it helps with other people's, comforts, and that's okay. I'm good with that. What do you think? Let me know. Tweet into the studio at Insanity Radio. Don't be afraid to make a song request. Don't be afraid to ask for a shout out. I'm going to throw on a few more tunes. Stick around and see if I can use the next link without going,
Be a rock star.
Rockstar by Nickelback. Before that, we were listening to Ain't No Rest for the Wicked by Cage the Elephant and Good Riddance, the live cover, Time of Your Life by Green Day, requested by Anne, who is also tuning in while at work right now. I'm starting to wonder if there's anywhere left in this country that's actually working as opposed to tuning into Insanity Radio 103.2 FM. Please do keep tuning in. Let the global economy come to a standstill, because Insanity Radio is here. Now, there's a topic, another topic, because that's what I do, is topics, and there's a topic that I absolutely love gaming, and for years and years and years and years and years now, I've been stuck on the same old games from the last decade or so, like Borderlands and Borderlands 2 and Dead Island and some of those, because nothing new has been coming out that's caught my attention for such a long time. All this kind of Call of Duty and just this sort of Hunger Games kind of battle royales, that kind of thing, do not appeal to me. I've always been interested in sort of survival in post-apocalyptic lands, that kind of thing. So in the last few years, I've really kind of leaned away from gaming altogether, thinking that the things I want would be too much, or the things that I prefer just aren't with the mainstream, therefore will never become a thing. But recently, I have started following a project that is, it's pretty much making my dreams come true at this point, because there's a new PC game on the market that was officially released just about a week ago, that has already sold over 700,000 copies. It's really making a storm and has already been labelled as the answer, the replacement to DayZ. It's been labelled as the reason that DayZ is now going to die completely. It's been compared to PUBG, Conan Exiles, and the Hunger Games. Now, there's a little bit of confusion for some people who assumed it was going to be another Battle Royale style game, but it's very, very different to that. It's ultimately a survival game in a 144 kilometre squared open world map. The game has been released in its alpha phase for just barely over a week, and there's already been masses and masses of patches and tweaks and updates every 48 hours or more ever since then. And what's fascinating me about this game, though, is the direction they've taken with the survival aspect. Many games go as far as having a health bar, hunger and thirst to monitor. But SCUM goes so much deeper than that. That's the name of the game. I haven't mentioned that before, is SCUM. There are 30 different vitamins, minerals, fats and sugars to maintain and monitor. There are tables and stats including the heart pulse, the oxygen level, the temperature. I mean, as an example, when you go outside into the rain or go swimming in your clothes get wet, your temperature drops, you risk getting ill, your clothes all have their own individual wetness level, and the wetter they are, the heavier they are, meaning the more stamina and energy you use trying to move around, the more calories you burn, the more nutrients you need. And that's just one example of just how in-depth they've gone with this. And on the On the character creation page, when you're creating a character, you can make someone who's very skinny, so will naturally have a lot of dexterity, but won't be able to carry as much because they won't be as strong, and they won't be able to handle powerful weapons so accurately. There'll be a lot more recoil. Or you could create a character who's very fat and they'll be able to use their fat reserves to survive a bit longer without food, and they'll have a lot more constitution than many other characters and against the elements and that kind of thing, but they can't run so fast and they generally have less stamina, so they're almost sort of borderline sitting ducks. You could have a character who's very muscular, who'll need to eat more foods and more healthily to keep their muscle mass up, but they'll be able to carry more, fight barehanded with more ease, and they'll have more recoil control over powerful weapons. Or you can create any kind of mix between them with the sliders that let you have total control over the character you create, and that's absolutely amazing. There are almost 30 different skills that are affected by your levels of strength and constitution, your intelligence and dexterity, all of which can be improved by using the skills in game. And at the moment, as I said, the game is still in alpha, meaning there's still a lot more content to be implemented, memory leaks to be fixed, bugs to squash. But as an example of what to expect in the future, they have plans on adding vehicles that you need to repair and maintain in order to use. That way you can't just jump into a game, hop into a car and dash about GTA style. You'll need to find parts and look after the vehicle and maintain it and look after it. There's going to be more craftable items added, more animals to hunt, more diseases and illnesses, more ways to treat them. At the moment, they have kept the server limit to 64 players while they improve performance and iron out some wrinkles, but they're intending on increasing this to 100 players per server in the near future. There's PvP and PvE. For those of you who are not totally game savvy, there's player versus player and player versus environment, all nestled in at the same time. I've already seen one player stealthily crawling past a zombie unnoticed until another player threw a stone in his direction, which caught the attention of the zombie and got the ninja wannabe maimed. I thought that was absolutely brilliant. The player who threw the stone finished off the zombie and looted them both, wandering away totally unharmed. And that's just an example of some of the things you could do that just it's amazing. It is absolutely amazing. One question that's been asked a lot and has created a lot of confusion and a little bit of divide was the topic of base building, and the developers have come up with a really brilliant, unique way of handling that, and I personally love it. So many games have tried to implement base building without success. Some games, they get smothered in bases that make it impossible to find any free space or actually play, and some of them take away from the aesthetics way too much. Others have, there's a whole mess of complications with base building, which SCUM has found a way to work around. Instead of being able to build your own bases, you'll be able to fortify the buildings that already exist on the map. Finding the resources to barricade the doors and the windows and set traps and storage and many other things, you'll be able to create your own semi-safe spaces without having any impact on the look of the map or the space of the map at all. In theory, if you were part of a whole clan, you could potentially be able to fortify and have control of an entire neighborhood. The possibilities just feel almost endless, and the developers show no signs of slowing down. Again, this game is called SCUM, and it's currently available on alpha on Steam for just £15.49 at the moment, or £21.55 if you buy the supporter pack bundle, which includes a few more additions without giving major advantages in the game, and include any future content added to the support pack bundle in the future. And that's actually a very, very good price for a game. Nowadays, people release alpha games on Steam. It's almost a full retail price of like 50-60 quid onwards, and it feels like you're getting a fraction of the game for the full price, and it's just not cool. But SCUM, they're just £15.49 for a game that's continuing to be developed and grown. That's a good price. That's a good price, and this is why I believe they're making some waves. 700,000 copies in less than a week. But anyway, I'm rambling about this way too much now, so I'm going to throw on a few more tunes. This one is one of about 8 million song requests that have been sent in by Anne, who is tuning in. So yes, stick around to Insanity Radio 103.2 FM. Whoop whoop.
Stranger to the way leads nowhere.
Chasing Pavements by Adele. Before that, we were listening to This Is Me with their Greatest Showman, and is it Kiala Settle, and Life by Des'ree. You're listening to Insanity Radio 103.2 FM. I am White Shadow, and yesterday, the 8th of September, yesterday saw the birthday of exactly 37 years since the first episode of Only Fools and Horses was first aired. On the 8th September 1981, the first episode, Big Brother, was aired, roping in an audience of 9.2 million viewers on BBC One, and it went on to produce 7 series spanning from 1981 to 1991. There were also 16 sporadic Christmas specials that were aired until the end of the show in 2003. The most popular episode was aired on the 29th of December 1996 for the first time. It was called Time on Our Hands, which saw Del Boy and Rodney become millionaires after Raquel's father, who was an antiques dealer, spotted a long-lost 18th century Harrison marine watch, which they called the Harrison's... oh goodness, I'll come back to that one. The lesser what Harrison's lesser watch, the Marine Pocket Timekeeper, as it was known back in them good old days. Yeah, let's try that again. Yes, the Harrison Marine Watch. He discovered the Harrison Marine Watch in Dell's garage, which sold at Sotheby's auction for 6.2 million quid. This episode brought in 24.3 million viewers when it was first aired on BBC One. In an interview with Sir David Jason a few years ago, when asked if they would consider bringing Only Fools and Horses back to the screen one more time, he said only if it was written by John Sullivan, who was the original writer throughout pretty much all of the series. Now, unfortunately, John Sullivan passed away back on the 22nd of April 2011, aged just 64, so I feel like we might not be getting any Only Fools and Horses returns anytime soon. Now, Only Fools and Horses had so many great moments, and there are so many reasons why I think it grew to become one of the greatest British sitcoms of all time. And I can't emphasise that enough. Other countries have tried to remake the series because it was that popular, with varying levels of success, we could say. One producer in the US tried to prove that the US can remake literally any hit in the UK, any hit the UK show at any time without warning. ABC looked at the first pilot episode, and They liked it. They liked it a lot, and yeah, they rejected it, but they asked the same cast and crew to make a second pilot later the same year. Then ABC rejected that as well, and it never came to be. But some of the funniest moments that anyone who's watched the series will remember. For me, some of my favourite moments include Tony Angelino, who Del Boy hired to perform alongside Raquel, insisting that Tony performs a Roy Orbison classic, Crying, only to discover on the night that Tony can't pronounce his R's when he's on the stage singing Crying. Unfortunately, we never got to see Tony perform I Love Rock and Roll, but that was by far one of my funniest moments. On top of that, there was, of course, Trigger's broom, the same broom that Trigger had for 20 years. It had only had 17 new heads and 14 new handles in its time, and it's all down to the age-old saying handed down through generations of road sweepers: look after your broom. There was, of course, the Batman and Robin scene, and, of course, the two most shouted about moments in the history of Only Fools and Horses: Dell falling through the bar and the chandelier. The chandelier is by far the nation's favourite. So it would seem. It's always picked as the number one alongside Dell falling through the bar. But some of my favourites, like I said, my favourite moments include Tony Angelino and Trigger's broom. They're just beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. What was your favourite? I want to know what your favourite moment in Only Fools and Horses series is. Let me know by tweeting into the studio at Insanity Radio. Lovely jubbly. Lean on Me by Bill Withers. Before that, we were listening to I Love Rock and Roll by Joan Jett and Toxic by Britney Spears. Now, this one's going to be a relatively short link because I have had some more song requests. We have one more song request from Anne and two very, very good tracks from my friend Twiglet. And these are songs, Twiglet. And these are songs I haven't heard for a long time, and I'm absolutely looking forward to listening to them. Thank you so much for those song requests. Keep them rocking in. Now, I have already had two people asking me, and I'm pretty sure that later on in the YouTube video, Retro Stevie will also be asking what. No Jade Thornton today. Jade Thornton is currently out performing her magic around, I think she said Croydon, but don't quote me on that. Jade is out there changing lives with her miracle music, but do not forget that if you want to hear more of Jade Thornton, you can find her on YouTube, Jade G Thornton 99. You can find her on Facebook of Jade Thornton Music, but also you can buy her. Why am I struggling with this? String a coherent sentence together. We can do this. You got this, dude. Okay, yes, also you can buy 5 at the moment of her original tracks on Exit Live, and I think it was just under £4 or around £4 for 5 tracks. It works out something like 80 pence per song. It's an absolute steal, so go check it out on Exit Live. On that note, Retro Stevie, I just want to say thank you very much for your commentaries on YouTube. I know you've been struggling to keep up with the commentaries recently, and I have also fallen behind with reading them on YouTube, but I promise you I'll definitely catch up soon enough. I've only got 2 left to catch up with now. We've got this. I absolutely love your posts, and I literally feel like you're my number one fan, and I absolutely love it. So thank you so much for those commentaries. They are definitely not boring, but it does make me chuckle when you say boring commentary time. And I'm still loving the way you managed to mix up the title and artist of just about every song that ever gets played on this show. It's just magical how you come up with these. I love it. Speaking of music, Insanity Radio a couple of weeks ago was behind the scenes at Reading Festival. Phoebe Hagen and Jamie Woods and a couple of other people from Insanity Radio were down at Reading Festival for the weekend, the Friday, Saturday and Sunday, I do believe, interviewing some of the bands behind the scenes. Phoebe did some absolutely amazing coverage. She is a natural and I love it. All of these interviews are now available on the Insanity Radio YouTube channel. You can find out more by going to insanityradio.com. Also, applications are still open. If you're interested in joining Insanity Radio, if you want a show, or if you're interested in working behind the scenes, if you want to get involved in any of the teams here at Insanity Radio, you can go to insanityradio.com and find out. You'll find out everything. Just throw in an application. If you're not sure about it, I'd recommend talking to somebody, asking if you could have a little tour of the studio, maybe appear as a guest on one of the shows. There are plenty of opportunities. It's not all in or all out. There's plenty of ways you can dip your toes in without committing to anything specifically or promising or signing your life away. So check it out. Think about it. Give it some thought. Give it a try. I recommend it. It's definitely one of the best things I've ever done in my entire life, besides dunking my fries in strawberry milkshake. Now, without without further delay, I'm going to throw on these songs because I really want to hear these songs. Let's do this. Stick around to Insanity Radio 103.2 FM.
Round, round, get around, I get around, yeah, get around, round, round, I get around, I get around, round, round, I get around.
A Hard Day's Night by the Beatles. Before that, we were listening to I Get Around by the Beach Boys and Staying Alive by the Bee Gees. What a collection of classics right there. You're listening to Insanity Radio 103.2 FM. I am White Shadow. Thank you so much for those song requests. But next up, I have 2 more song requests and 3, count them, 3 shout outs to be giving right now, because we have Caroline tuning into Insanity Radio right now from work. Caroline has requested You Can Call Me Al by Paul Simon. That's the one. Yes, I know this stuff. Also, shout out to Jazz, who has requested a number by Ben Howard. Jazz is also working right now, and shout out to Jackie. Thank you for tuning in to Insanity Radio 103.2 FM while you're at work. There's one major pattern forming here. We have Anne, we have Caroline, we have Jazz, we have Jackie, we have Paige, all tuning in from their workplaces right now. This is amazing. If you are in a store anywhere in this country right now and the queues are starting to form, you might find it's because all of the staff are backstage right now in the staff room chilling out, tuning in to Insanity Radio 103.2 FM. And since this is your show, since this is your station, I'm going to let you do what you want with it. So I'm going to throw on these tunes right now. Stick around. Thank you so much. I love you all. Towing the Line by Ben Howard. That was different. That was very different. Awesome. And different's good, I think. And before that, we were listening to You Can Call Me Al by Paul Simon. Thank you so much to Caroline and Jazz for those requests. Another shout out once again to Jackie and Anne and Paige, who are all tuning into Insanity Radio from their workplaces right now. Now, today is the 9th of September. I've just totally forgotten everything I was going to talk about. It's too early in the day. It's too early on a Sunday for anybody who's working or shopping or doing anything on a Sunday. Chill, take it easy, relax, pace yourselves. It's all good. We've got this. Today is the 9th of September. It is Sunday, which means there are only 107 days left until Christmas. Ho, ho, ho! Merry Christmas! Ho, ho, ho! And on this day in 1914, the first fully mechanised unit in the British Army was created. It was called the Canadian Automobile Machine Gun Brigade. In 1926, the National Broadcasting Company created the Radio Corporation of America. In 1928, Silvio Catar of Haiti set a long jump record at 26 foot and half an inch. That half an inch is very important. And in 1945, the first bug in a computer program was discovered by Grace Hopper. A moth was removed with tweezers from a relay and taped into the log. In 1950, the first use of the TV canned laughter track by the Hank McCune Show in the US. In 1956, on this day, Elvis Presley appeared on the Ed Sullivan Show for the first time. 1957, I love this track. In 1957, Diana by Paul Anka reached #1. In 1971, John Lennon released his Imagine album. In 1985, President Reagan ordered sanctions against South Africa. And in 2015, on this day, Queen Elizabeth II became Great Britain's longest reigning monarch at 63 years and 7 months, beating the previous record set by her great-great-grandmother, Queen Victoria. Also, in the world of music on this day, the #1 song in the UK charts on September the 9th, 2013, 5 years ago, was Roar by Katy Perry. And the #1 song in the UK charts on September the 9th, 2008, 10 years ago was still I Kissed a Girl by Katy Perry. Katy Perry was taking its place by storm, and the number one song in the UK on September the 9th, 1998, 20 years ago, was Booty Call by All Saints. And since I love Raw by Katy Perry, I'm going to be playing that next. So stick around to Insanity Radio 103.2 FM.
I used to bite my tongue and hold my breath, scared to rock the boat and make a mess. So I said quietly,
Black or White by Michael Jackson. Before that, we were listening to Raw by Katy Perry and Murder on a Dance Floor by Sophie Ellis-Bextor. You're listening to Insanity Radio 103.2 FM. I am White Shadow, and as some of you may know, that I like keeping up to date with some of the awareness days that we have going on. There's quite a few things going on throughout the entirety of the September month, including Blue September with prostate cancer awareness. But there is also a fetal alcohol spectrum disorders International Awareness Day, which is totally not a mouthful. Now, I'm quoting this directly from the Awareness Day's website. This is today. Every year on September the 9th, International Fetal Alcohol Spectrum Disorders Awareness Day is observed. Proclamations are issued in countries, states, provinces, and towns all around the world. Bells are rung at 9:09 a.m. in every time zone from New Zealand to Alaska. People all around the world gather for events to raise awareness about the dangers of drinking during pregnancy and the plight of individuals and families who struggle with fetal alcohol spectrum disorders. The first Fetal Alcohol Spectrum Disorders Day was celebrated on the 9th of the 9th, 1999. This day was chosen so that on the 9th day of the 9th month of the year, the world will remember that during the 9 months of pregnancy, a woman should abstain from alcohol. Now, that's the end of that quote right there from the website. I know that for some people this can be a slightly controversial topic, with some people saying that evidence suggests small amounts of alcohol while pregnant can actually provide health benefits, but I definitely do not know the solid facts, and that's a debate that's way out of my league and not one I'm going to open up on the show today. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Thank you so much for all the song requests. Thank you to all of these people who have been tuning into the show today from their workplaces. That's really something. I like that. If you've got customers in there right now listening in, thank you. Just keep tuning into Insanity Radio and keep shopping at where you are, because they know which radio stations are the best radio stations out there. Insanity Radio 103.2 FM. Don't forget, I will be here again next week from 1 o'clock till 3 o'clock. I'm going to have my fingers crossed that Jade Thornton will be back in the studio, because I am not so good at this on my own. My throat is going, my voice is disappearing. Also, don't forget that in 3 years from now, in the year 2021, Only Fools and Horses will be celebrating 40 years since it was first aired on the BBC One, all the way back in 1981. Yesterday, it's just, whoa, so many, 40 years. Oh, time flies when you're having fun. Speaking of fun, I'm going to throw on a few more tunes. This is it for me. Enjoy the rest of your day. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, people of all ages, let's get ready to rumble.